Welcome to Crypto 101, a first principles jargon-free course on blockchain and its impact on financial services. We are currently learning about decentralized finance. In the previous lessons, we learned about a decentralized exchange called Uniswap. In this lesson, we will cover another example of a decentralized finance application called Compound. In the first section of this lesson, we will learn the basics of Compound. In the second section, we will start digging into the 5 functions a user can perform on the Compound app. Compound is a peer-to-peer lending platform for crypto tokens. Holders of crypto tokens can post them as collateral and borrow another crypto token against the value of that collateral. In this lesson, we will demonstrate version 3, which is the active version of the app at the time this video was created. Consider Alice, who owns Ether, and Bob, who owns the popular stablecoin USDC. Alice posts her Ether as collateral with the Compound DeFi protocol. This allows her to borrow USDC against this collateral. Just as we can borrow only a percentage of the value of the house we are buying, Alice can only borrow a percentage of the value of her Ether. In Compound, this is known as the collateral factor. In this example, Alice deposits $100 of Ether but borrows only $80 worth of USDC. 2 categories of crypto assets are being supplied to the Compound protocol. One category is the collateral. In the example we just reviewed, the collateral asset was Ether. The second category is the base asset, which is the asset being lent against the collateral. In our example, the base asset was the stablecoin USDC. Borrowers are supplying assets to the collateral pool. In this example, we have one borrower, Alice. In reality, there will be many borrowers. Lenders are supplying base assets to the loan pool. In reality, there will be many lenders apart from Bob. When Alice borrows, the ownership of the base asset is transferred from the loan pool to Alice's Ethereum address. Let us put some numbers into our scenario. Alice deposits $1,000 worth of Ether as collateral. The collateral factor is 80%. Her borrowing capacity is $800 worth of USDC, which is a stablecoin. We will assume that the value of USDC remains $1 at all times. Alice borrows less than borrowing capacity. The actual amount she borrows is $600. The value of Ether collapses to $700. The borrowing capacity now is 80% of 700, which is 560. But Alice's loan balance is 600. Alice is under-collateralized. Alice's borrowing capacity is now lower than the actual borrowing. Alice has 2 options. First, she can add more collateral to the Compound protocol. Second, she can repay her loan. But if she does not execute option 1 or 2, it triggers a liquidation process. Next, we will learn how liquidation works. Alice's collateral, which is valued at $700, is seized by Compound. A liquidation factor is assigned to it. Let us say, it is 90%. This equals $630. $70 is returned to Alice's Ethereum account, while the remaining $630 is kept by the Compound protocol. We will learn about the mechanics of the liquidation process in the next lesson. Let us calculate the net loss experienced by Alice because of the liquidation. Her collateral was originally worth $1,000 but its market price crashed to $700. This loss of $300 has nothing to do with Compound. It is because Ether lost value. Of the remaining $700, Alice lost $630. Hence, the loss of collateral because of borrowing is only $630. But Alice's net loss is much less. Next, we will see why. Alice's original loan balance was $600. The entire loan balance is extinguished within Compound's books. Her principal loss to Compound is only $30 because she keeps the original loan balance. Of course, we don't know what she did with the loan. Perhaps, she was using the borrowed money to trade. It is possible that the profits she made on those trades exceeds the $30 she lost to Compound. It could also be the reverse. In this example, Bob lent $600 USDC. He was able to get back $630 USDC worth of collateral. Hence, he didn't lose money because the liquidation engine prevented under-collateralization. The interest rate paid to lenders is called supply rate and is set via a supply rate algorithm. The interest rate paid by borrowers is called the borrow rate and is set via a borrow rate algorithm. No interest is paid on the collateral. The interest payable by the borrower is added to her loan balance. In our example, Alice borrowed $600. Say, the annual interest she has to pay is 4%. The interest is capitalized to her loan balance every time a new block is created on the Ethereum network. Assume there are around 2 million Ethereum blocks created in a year. Hence, every few seconds, the loan balance will increase by 2 millionth of 4%. We can revisit the liquidation scenario. Borrowing capacity is marked to market collateral value multiplied by the collateral factor. Loan balance is equal to the original loan amount plus the capitalized interest. Liquidation occurs if B above is greater than A. We can summarize the reasons liquidation can be triggered. First, the market value of collateral can fall. Second, accrued interest could result in under-collateralization. Third, the price of the base asset could shoot up, resulting in the loan balance being higher. However, in version 3 of Compound, this is not likely to happen because the base asset is a stablecoin, whose value, by definition, is stable. Now that we have a basic understanding of Compound, the rest of the lesson is structured around the 5 functions an individual can perform on Compound. These are lending, withdrawal of a loan, borrowing, repayment of borrowing, finally, liquidation. So far, we have covered Compound in a theoretical manner. To get a first-hand feel of how lending works on the application, I will now go to the Compound app and make a loan. I am on the homepage of Compound. You can see the amount of borrowing is $802 million and is backed by nearly $2.3 billion of collateral. We also see that the borrowing and collateral is spread over 4 markets. The first market is the outstanding collateral and borrowing on the older version of Compound called V2. In this lesson, we will focus on the most current version as of the time this content was created, which is V3. I will click on the app icon of V3, which will transport me to the Compound app. Let us carefully look at this app. On the top right is my Ethereum address whose private key is held in my MetaMask wallet. Like Uniswap, about which we learnt in the prior lessons, Compound and MetaMask are integrated. We can switch for a minute to my MetaMask wallet. This is the place where my assets are held. We earlier learnt that an Ethereum account directly holds Ether. In addition, it can be listed as the owner on any number of fungible and non-fungible tokens. The 2 fungible ERC tokens I own are USDT and USDC. Next, I will flip back to the Compound app. One way to think about this is that the Ethereum address is the account that has custody of the tokens via its private key, and these tokens are used in decentralized finance applications. This is different than how centralized finance works. In centralized finance, if we wanted to trade in stocks, we first have to transfer money from our bank account to our brokerage account. We thus maintain 2 accounts and 2 passwords. On the other hand, I can transact on Compound using the private key of my Ethereum account. It is as though if we could operate our brokerage account by logging into our bank account. Next, let us understand the layout of the app. On the left are the tokens that are accepted as collateral. We can see currently 5 tokens are accepted as collateral, of which Ether is 1. The other 4 are ERC20 tokens. We can see that my MetaMask wallet only has 1 token, namely Ether, which is acceptable as collateral. The balances for all other tokens is 0. On the right side are the base assets, meaning the asset which can be lent and borrowed. While there are 5 collateral assets on the left, version 3 so far only allows 1 base asset. I am now going to hover on the asset that I can deposit as collateral. The Oracle price is the current price of Ether on an off-chain exchange like Coinbase. The term, Oracle, as we learnt in an earlier lesson, refers to third parties who provide off-chain information to blockchain applications. Since Ether is a potential collateral, its value needs to be marked to market. Hence, Ether's price must be obtained from some off-chain source. In fact, as we learnt in the previous lesson, even the price on Uniswap is a good approximation of the off-chain price of an asset. We have already discussed collateral factor and liquidation factor. My share of the protocol balance is 0 because I haven't deposited any collateral yet. Hence, my borrow capacity is 0. The Compound app is reading my wallet balance of Ether from MetaMask. My borrow potential is equal to my Ether wallet balance multiplied by Ether's collateral factor. The result is then multiplied by the US dollar price of Ether. The borrow potential is quoted in USDC. We know when USDC is equal to $1. Next, we will zero in on the collateral factor. When I hover on Ether, I see that the collateral factor is 83%. This means that if I deposited $100 of Ether, I can borrow $83 of USDC. Next, I pull up another asset, the Uni token, which is the governance token of Uniswap. I bought some Uni tokens from Coinbase and sent them to my MetaMask wallet. The collateral factor is 75%, lower than that of Ether. This means that the protocol considers the Uni token to be less safe than Ether. Presumably, the price volatility of Uni token is higher. Now we will compare the liquidation factor of Ether and Uni. Ether's liquidation factor is 90%. This means that the liquidation engine will take away 90% of the collateral in a liquidation scenario. For Uni, The liquidation engine will take away less, at 81%. We can conclude that Ether has a higher collateral factor than Uni but a lower liquidation factor. This is another way of saying that I will lend you more against Ether, but if things go wrong, I will seize more of the collateral. This is logical. If I let you borrow more against the collateral, I need more of it to make myself whole in a liquidation scenario. I can see the supply APR is 3.05%. The borrower though is charged higher. Later we will learn how these interest rates are set. I will now do the big one. I will lend my USDC. I click on the supply button. I will lend $1 of USDC. The transaction will take a few seconds to confirm into a block in Ethereum. Let us wait patiently and let the transaction complete. I can now see my $1 earning interest. This interest rate is a floating rate and keeps changing. We will learn more about the rate setting process later. Next, we will explore the transaction I just processed on the Etherscan Block Explorer. I go to my MetaMask wallet. Then I click on the Activity tab. I then click on the transaction that I just processed. When the window opens up, I click View on Block Explorer. The transaction opens up. Let us give this a moment as it pulls up. We can see that this transaction was sent from my Ethereum address, whose private key was held in my MetaMask wallet. The destination address was a Compound smart contract. On scrolling down I see that this transaction cost me gas fees of about $6.79. In real life it would not make sense to pay $7 of fees for a loan amount of $1. But this is for learning purposes. I now see that there are 2 ERC20 tokens transferred as a result of this transaction. Next, we will learn what these transfers are. The first ERC20 token is the transfer of USDC from my Ethereum address to a contract address owned by Compound. This change of ownership is recorded in the USDC smart contract address, where the book of record for this stablecoin is maintained. What likely happened behind the scenes is that the transaction I signed with my private key was directed to the Compound smart contract, which then triggered a transaction directed to the USDC contract address. Next, we will reflect on the second ERC20 token transfer. The second ERC20 token transfer is a completely newly minted token. This is a token that Compound has assigned to me to represent the loan I have given. It is this token that records my entitlement to both the principal and interest. We can see that it is assigned to my Ethereum address. To summarize, the USDC I held was transferred to Compound. Compound transferred back to me its own token of nearly equivalent value. I go to my MetaMask wallet and see that this token is not listed in my wallet. Hence, I will click on Import Tokens to import the token manually into MetaMask. On Custom Tokens box, I enter the Compound contract address that issued the token. Then I click the Add Token box and let the token be imported. Next, we will go back to MetaMask to confirm that the token was imported. I open up my MetaMask wallet. Next, I scroll down the list of tokens to see whether my token is here. There it is. Notice that the token value is more than $1. Further, it can be sent to anybody just like another token. It is important to note that the token was always owned by my Ethereum address. But the wallet, which stores the private key for that address, was not visually displaying the token. This is somewhat clunky as compared to centralized finance. For instance, if we bought shares of Apple on our brokerage app, we will expect it to appear automatically on our app post-purchase, without this extra step. MetaMask has capabilities to auto-detect tokens on Ethereum, but it did not work for this token. The value of the token is greater than 1 even though I only invested 1. The reason the value of the token is more than $1 is because it is accumulating interest. If I sold the token today, the buyer will pay me $1 plus the accumulated interest I earned for the period I held the loan. Since interest is being added every few seconds when a block is created, I will earn interest up to the exact moment the ownership of this token is transferred. If I switch to Compound from MetaMask, I see the value to be somewhat different. But this is only a visual difference as MetaMask is rounding to a larger number of decimal places. The token, representing the financial interest of the owner in the loan, is called the C token. In version 3 of Compound there is only one base asset, the stablecoin USDC. Hence the C token is referred to as CUSDC. In earlier versions of Compound, there were multiple base assets. Hence, there are many C tokens with different suffixes. But in version 3, there is only one base asset. The value of CUSDC represents the total money lent plus capitalized interest, quoted in USDC. We will take a break at this point and resume with our discussion on Compound in the next lesson.